Hi, everybody. This is John Tucker from Car Biz Insider. I have a very special guest here with me today, André-Martin Hobbs. Hey, Andre, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Thanks for having me on the show, Don.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I see the stuff that you're sharing on LinkedIn and talking about good stuff. So, you're a very skilled person from car business. So, why don't you introduce yourself to our viewers and listeners and all that good stuff?
Absolutely. So, yeah, just to make it quick, aside from being from Quebec, as you can hear in my accent, I've been in the industry for 22 years now. So I'm 49. I've been in the industry for so long, and I have focused all of my career, or almost all of my career, on auto tech. Way back when, 22 years ago, I started by working on a big mandate, which was to bring an online portal, automotive portal in Canada. So I've worked on that. During those times, for the ones that are as old as I am, that have gray hair, they'll remember AOL and Netscape and all these guys. So I worked with them in the auto sphere back then. And then I moved on and created my own companies and doing marketing for dealers and creating websites and taking on social media campaigns when it arrived, right when Facebook was somewhat popular in 2007 and on. So I've done all of that. I've also invested in a number of companies. So I invested in a what is now a dealer group. Lots of non-prime in that dealer group, and that led me to create a platform which is called Lucy. Now, the Lucy platform focuses on F&I. We'll talk about that later, but the idea here is to just letting you guys know that I've been, on the floor in dealers. I've been managing dealers as well. I've been in auto all my life and lots of tech. So that's pretty much who I am.
That's really good information there. I'm really excited to talk to you more about tech stuff because as a car guy, I'm really love the technology and improvements, the future of the business. So, and it's really nice to talk to someone in Canada that embracing these kind of good stuff because generally speaking, we always tend to get stuff from the southern part of the border from our cousins in the United States and I mean, we got a lot of nice technology companies here,
Yeah.
but it's always good to see our fellow Canadian, pushing for new stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, you said a lot of things, interesting things. So let's focus on the non-prime business a little bit because I think this is going to relate to the product that we're going to be talking about it. What would you see in Ontario? Uh, based on my experience in the car business and what I have seen, the subprime business is about 25% of the
Mhm.
population car buyers. How would you say that in Quebec? And do you have any footprint in Ontario? Like you're mostly focused in province of Quebec, right?
No. So I've been active in all provinces.
Okay.
Depending on the projects that I've worked on, I've been, of course, in Quebec. It's my own, province. So I know all the dealer principals here in the dealer group. So I know them well, actually. But no, just to answer your question, 25% is a rough estimate of what the non-prime market is in Canada, not just Ontario. So it's similar in all provinces. Um, Mind you, there are provinces that have more, but larger provinces like Quebec and Ontario are roughly at 25%, which is a Canadian average. Then again, it depends on also if we focus on new car franchises. Some see more. There are some franchises or some OEMs that do see up to 40% non-prime clients. That also depends on where the store is located and so on. So a nice average, John, would be 25% across all provinces, not just Ontario.
Wow. So this is a very interesting metric here because like every four customers, you're going to have one person with the credit issues. So if your dealership is not prepared for this and you don't have the infrastructure and the training and you don't know how to handle these businesses because you got to treat them, your approach is going to be a little bit different the way you structure the deal because I mean having a credit issue doesn't necessarily mean You're not going to get a car. You will get a car, but maybe type of car, the age, maybe the protection packages, all that stuff is going to play a factor in it. So it's an interesting topic, because if your business, if your dealership is not in that subprime, non-prime business, and they're not ready for it, well, you're going to leave a lot of money on the table. And would you say that the subprime business, is it a profitable business, or or like, how is that? Would you compare it to a prime business?
Yeah, there's a lot of misconception as to how or what subprime really is. And of course, I'll come back to your question about profit, but also about just the subprime market as it is. A lot of people that are not experienced with non-prime will think that subprime means, you know, people that never pay their cars, get lots of repos, and large issues with the client's credit history. Now, there's a lot of segments. There's actually three segments, top segments into non-prime. I prefer to call it non-prime than subprime, because non-prime actually englobes three large segments. The first one is near prime. So these are consumers that are non-prime but close to prime. There's a subprime segment as well, which is the vast majority of where people are into, or what their credit status is. And also, the last one, the bottom of the bucket here, would be deep subprime. Now, unfortunately, I've been, talking to a lot of people in the car industry, and the first thing that they think when we ever bring, non-prime as a topic, they think deep subprime right away. Like people that have terrible credit, that have had uh, big issues with their credit history. So that's where their mindset goes to fast. Now, just to have the right lingo here, non prime is the best term to use. And non prime actually means that these consumers can absolutely buy a brand new vehicle with similar to prime type of deals. So to answer your question, is it profitable? It is absolutely profitable, not only in this transaction, but what non-prime brings to the actual model, right? To the dealership model, is that these consumers are repeat customers. They come to your store once. You can help them secure a vehicle, whether new or used, and transfer them into a new financing or lease in a shorter period of time than what you would have with prime customers. So they are great repeat customers if you treat them the way they should. And it is absolutely profitable, very comparable to what you find in prime. Now, it is true to say, though, that in the subprime, standard subprime segment, lenders will actually limit their risk on vehicles and put, reserves on the maximum value you can sell the vehicle to or at, the maximum number of products, or even the profit you can have on back end products. So yes, there are limits, but it doesn't mean that it's not a healthy transaction. It is a healthy transaction, and allows you to not only get, move metal, so sell one car to this consumer, but also call them back in 12 18 months and sell them a new vehicle in prime this time, if the client have better credit history. And that can actually be achieved using nurturing tools, but we'll get to that later on. Just to answer your question, John, it is absolutely profitable. If you compare the standard margins that people expect to make in non-prime, it would be $4,000 on a vehicle, which is $1,800 profit on the front end and $2,200 on the back end. That's what your aim should be when you look at non-prime. Obviously, it's not achievable with all the non-prime consumers, because, as I said, there's the deep subprime bucket up to the near prime bucket. But all in all, you're looking at $4,000.
Well, this is an interesting topic, because now we're going into the ideas of, let's say somebody had a credit issue, and obviously you need to repair your credit for various reasons, not to just buy a car, but even gaining employment sometimes. For government or like
Yeah,
big corporations, they like to be able to see your track record in your credit history, that shows some sort of responsibility, right?
Yeah.
So somebody needs to fix their credit. Let's say I got credit, something happened, life happens. Maybe I went through a divorce, something unfortunate happened to me, right? Even though I'm a responsible person, I took that hit. I need to repair my credit, right? I
Yeah.
need it to get a house, to get a job, to get a car, you name it, right?
Yeah.
Do you think buying a car and make a proper payment history, would you say that would be the fastest, easiest, and the most effective way of repairing your credit?
It's a question that I'll try to answer shortly, because we can just that alone is a, there's a lot of different perceptions as to what is the fastest or best way. I wouldn't say that there's only one trade or one way to repair credit. But what's true though is that getting financing, reaching to the point where you get financing on a vehicle, whether new or used, is absolutely an indication for future lenders that look at your credit history as to how well you've paid that car that you've had. So, for example, whether you're substandard, subprime, or near prime, uh, of course, having a trade, an installment trade, a car trade on your credit bureau that is well paid will help you in the future. Is it the fastest or the best way? I think actually the answer to that question is there's a mix. It can't just be a car. It has to be, obviously a credit card. So revolving credit is great. Other types of installment credits are great as well, or financing trades on your credit bureau. But if we specifically look into the car industry, of course, having a well-paid installment trade, a well-paid car financing is something that lenders look for when they assess your credit. So yes, it is important, definitely.
Nice. Really good information as well. And the other misconception about these non-prime purchasers that they have is like, okay, I bought a car, 29% interest rate, let's say. I got stuck with it. Are you confident that as with your practices that you provide, do you really genuinely help people to become a near prime or prime purchasers by helping them reducing that interest rate? How do you do it without getting into too much details? Of course, you get your trade secrets and all that stuff, but in a
No,
nutshell, would you be able to explain how that works, the process?
yeah. And by the way, we're very open as to how we do it. We've actually implemented in our platform um, guidance for business managers on helping their clients with that. Now, I referred earlier to the misconception about non-prime, and that 29% interest rate you're referring to is deep subprime rates, not standard subprime or even near prime. I'll just give you an example,
Of
quick.
course, please do. Please do.
John, if you're in a Kia store today with a non-prime type of consumer, okay, that this consumer is presently under bankruptcy, has had issues in the past, went under bankruptcy, first day of bankruptcy, right? So the client signed with the trustee yesterday, walks into a Kia store today. You could think that this client will get 29% interest rate on a used car. It's not the case. I can tell you, according to obviously the client revenues, but that client can buy a new Kia vehicle with a subvented interest rate from IA starting at 4%.
Really?
Yeah. So there's a great misconception that non-prime is 29% interest rate.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of people think that. It's not the case. Now, I will answer your question about that 29% one, but it is important to, and that's why I prefer non-prime, right, to subprime. Uh, it's important to just to lay the information in flat and make sure that everyone understands that a consumer that has had credit issues is not necessarily someone that has a terrible or represents a terrible risk to financial institutions. It may be someone that has had issues, simple issues, divorce, health issues, whatever, which is unlikely to happen again, and that financial institutions will absolutely finance at a very low interest rate, as low as subvented rates with IA that I know well at Kia stores at 4% on a Forte for a Kia Forte, for example. But to go back to your question earlier on, a client that falls into the deep subprime bucket will have higher interest rates. It may even be that some lenders, financial institutions, will lease the vehicle to the client and not finance it and put a GPS inside the vehicle so that if payments are missed, the lender will recuperate their vehicle. Now, the reason why that is, and that, by the way, is 3% of the non prime segment. Just that's important. 3%, not more than that. So 3% of the non-prime segment are people that have had big issues with their credit history where they haven't paid their first financing, car financing that is, haven't paid their second car financing, and now they're looking for the third lender that's going to help them secure a vehicle. Now, when this is well done, for some reason the client went to, we're not going to judge them as to why that happened. There may be good reasons. But the reason the next step for stores when they do want to sell to these clients, because not all stores want to help these consumers, a lot of stores to say, well, I'm not interested in deep subprime lenders because their transaction is limited in terms of vehicle value, profit. That's where the perception is or comes from, right? From deals that are not paying the dealership as much in terms of profitability. Now, the way to treat these consumers is you have to treat them as humans, saying, hey, this is the situation you're into right now. Look at what happened in your credit history. This is what banks judge you by, what we see here on your credit bureau. Now, at some point, these lenders will even look at bank statements just to make sure that, whenever a pay is deposited, that the consumer uses and spends it the right way and not on all sorts of different things. That being said, those consumers that are in that 29% interest range may absolutely want to be out of there and get a better vehicle at a lower interest rate. That actually should be their goal. It would be your goal if you were there, right? It would be my
Yep,
goal as well.
of course.
So the idea here is to treat them like humans and help them get out of that situation. And that can happen. Now, of course, it can happen with very specific sets of points. The lender that you finance with has to be a lender that reports their trade on a credit bureau, right? If
Yep.
it's a buy here, pay here type of store that doesn't report on credit bureaus, well, then let's say you pay all your car payments on time, it won't reflect on your bureau. So at the end of it, you're still in the same situation in a year from now than you were, a year prior. So when you do go with a lender that does report on credit bureaus, those consumers repair their credit over time, showing the world that they are paying on time, right? So they
Yeah, the
can
progress.
pay on time.
Pay
So,
progress.
so yeah, so lenders will look at that file in a year or 18 months from now, say, okay, this client has, had issues, but now wants to, repair their credit, pay on time, make sure everything is paid, and then they will reduce their interest rate from 29 to maybe 15, and then 18 months after that from 15 whatever percent interest rate, and go to a standard rate. So there's a way to get out of there. Now, of course, unfortunately, there are some people that will think that the 29.9% interest rate type of consumers will stay there for their life. It's not the case. They want out, and you
But
can help them as a dealer. Now, it's not everyone that wants to do this, but we found a way to automate that into our platform. We'll talk about that soon, I guess. But you can absolutely help those consumers repair their credit over time and switch their vehicles after 12 or 18 months. It is feasible.
that's gonna be my next conversation topic with you. That I don't believe that, let's say, dealers don't really want to help these type of people to get them into a lower interest rate. But I think because in car dealerships we're extremely distracted people and we just want to live by day, and everything is like a 30-day period, month end, 20-day, 10-day, and all that stuff. I think the most difficult part is keeping track of these people without having a proper software or CRM tools. So my understanding is that's where your platform comes into a place. Am I correct on that? Does your
Yeah.
platform provide that kind of help to dealers?
So not to plug our platform too much here, because my goal with you today is to give information
Of
to
course.
people
Yeah.
and dealers wanting to do more non-prime.
Yeah.
So yes, of course. I mean, any CRM, any sales CRM that exists today that dealers have can can be used for that, can be used for selling a car through F&I, through business office, selling a car to a consumer, and then having the salesperson say, okay, I'm going to contact that client in 12 or 18 months from now and sell them a new vehicle on with a better financing rate. That's open to everyone. Now, what we've done in our platform is that our platform focuses on business managers, not salespeople. So business managers will have an automated notification from our platform. So you don't need to do anything because we're focused on non-prime, right? Or not just non-prime, sorry, but focused on business managers and F&I processes. So when you do have a non-prime client, our system called Lucy will absolutely notify the business manager in either 12 or 18 months when Lucy judges that the client is now ready for a new financing. So yeah, we've automated it in Lucy. What we've also automated is some kind of a game plan, as we call it, to help the consumer look into their past history and have tips and advice as to what not to do in the future to fall again into that non-prime segment. So we've automated that. It's just one click. The business manager will get the reporting. You can give that to your client. Lucy will notify you in 12 or 18 months, according to what type of financial situation the client is into, and open the door to selling a new vehicle to that client. Now, it is very effective for deep subprime, as we just talked about. Standard subprime rates also vary a lot, starting at 8.9% interest rate, going all the way to 18%. That's the subprime type of rate, and then deep subprime starts after that. So um, there is also a game plan that can be put in place for people that fall into the subprime category, and that is to help them repair their credit over time, not just about um, their vehicle trades, but also all of their trades. Now, we're not a credit repair facility or system. What we do is tips and advice as to what to look at and where to be careful in order to get into a better financing deal in a few months or years from now. Yeah.
So, uh, I got curious now because like I'm a tech kind of stuff guy. Like I try and
Mhm.
in everything I use it or potentially I may use it. I try to understand like how the thing works behind it. Like when I first get my driver's license, and I keep hearing the term like ABS, like like the ABS system. And I'm like, okay, what does it do? How does it work? What kind of like I'm that type of guy. Like anytime I hear something technological, I need to like understand how it works. So now you're talking about a platform that helps financial services managers, business managers, or whatever you call it. Uh, how does it do it though? Like Lucy is just a program platform. Like, is it an like? Could you
Yeah.
explain that a little bit? Like, I just want to understand how it works. Like, how
Well,
does it do it?
yeah. Okay, I will, John. And the most important point here is to look at why Lucy was created, right?
Yeah, exactly. Why? Yeah.
Exactly. So actually, what we've done, we've created a system that creates efficiencies in the F&I process. So that's what we've created. But how we did it and actually why we did it is very important, I think, in this story. So why is because several years ago, in a group of dealers in Quebec that was fairly large in terms of non-prime sales, they had an issue at finding talent, finding business managers and growing their company and servicing more clients had become at that time an issue for them because they needed to train people a lot to just work on non-prime. One thing we haven't discussed yet, John, but maybe we can keep that for later. But business managers that are experienced in prime don't necessarily want to do non-prime, either because of a lack of experience or knowledge, or just time, right? So these points are important. We'll get to that later if you want, but
Of course.
to go back on our story, the reason why we've created Lucy is to, as I said, create efficiencies. And the hiring process was somewhat easy, but the training afterwards was long, between 3 to 6 months, for someone to learn what non-prime is, to be effective in reading credit bureaus and explaining that to consumers when needed, and sometimes even advocating for the consumer to lenders in order to get better interest rates or better terms. So that takes time. Now, what we've done in our platform is that we've included that knowledge inside a platform that does all of it in just a few seconds, right? What we like to say is that Lucy will pre-qualify a consumer in 16 seconds, regardless of their credit history. So what you can do is you can open up the system, log in your client information, have Lucy read and interpret the credit bureaus, whether one or two credit bureaus in Canada, and input the revenues, and Lucy will just spit back which lenders you can send the file to. That process, especially in non-prime, takes a lot of time. Now, what we do for prime as well in our platform is we find the best programs for business managers right away, because today the way it works is that business managers have to create a worksheet and change the program, see what their incentives are, and just that is a 10 to 15 minute process. We've dumbed it down to just a few seconds, to look at the client history, know which lenders to send it to, which programs to pick, how to create your worksheet. All of that is done inside our platform. So we've done this initially for this group of dealers that wanted to streamline the process with non-prime consumers, and we moved on from non-prime to prime. So that's the reason why the platform exists. Now, the way we've done this, and I like to say that I was a bit cocky 6 years ago when I told everyone that I would build this platform in a year. My girlfriend is a business manager, and she looked at me saying, "Andre, this just can't be done." And that's where I told her, "No, no, I'll do it in a year, right? Just I've been there before." I hit a wall. I definitely hit one, and I built the platform, but in 5 years instead of just one.
Wow.
We brought Lucy to market last year, in April of last year, so it's going to be a year in just a few days. Um, but how it works now is interesting. So we initially, what we've done is we created what is part of AI, which is called an expert system, a rule-based system that looks at, okay, this is the type of file we have, this is what the decisioning should be, and just outputting results. So we started with that, and then we moved on to machine learning, and have had machine learning listening on, okay, what input files do we have, what kind of problem do we have with this client, what's the credit history like, and outputting which lenders should be considered. So we've had machine learning on our own system, our own system expert system, teach the machine learning as to how to look at files, what variables are important, what the scorecards are for lenders, what important points are about the credit history, and just move on from there and learn. So I like to call Lucy my little 5-year-old daughter, or 6-year-old now, because she started not knowing anything and is learning. Lucy's learning now every day, every minute, every second, to give out better decisioning. So that's how it started. It started with rule based, moved on to machine learning, and now Lucy's learning from every file that goes through the system.
So you may say Lucy's dynamic too, based on the because the
Oh yeah,
lenders change their decisions. Like I give you an
yeah,
example. Back in the days, and I'm gonna use names because I mean I'm not advertising or anything, but like I just want to be more genuine. BMO, right? BMO wasn't huge in the car in automotive financing before 2016. Well, 2016 they went crazy and started paying crazy amount of reserves all of a sudden. Then CIBC followed the same suit. Then the OEM captive financing went after that too. Like it's a dynamic kind of stuff, right? And going after people. So Lucy can adjust the dynamic changes
yeah,
from the lenders like that.
yeah. So yeah, so and what you just referred to, there's a lot of things. Obviously, And unfortunately for lenders, they have started giving reserves, and now business managers expect reserves and will choose lenders according to reserves, especially on prime.
Of
Um,
course.
it is the way the business is. And now choosing the right lender is not always easy, right? Not just on the reserve side. So of course, if you have a prime type consumer and you know that, let's say the client has bought, X number of vehicles in the past at your dealer, you know the client somewhat well, you know it's a prime consumer. Of course, a business manager's decision will often be on which one will reply faster or give the best reserve. That's pretty much how it's done. Finding the right program sometimes can be more challenging because you may think you have the best one. It may not be the case. So Lucy does that for prime. But when it's non-prime, it gets much more complicated. So that's on the lender choice, right? So that's how they select their programs. But yeah, what was your question again, John? I just lost
Oh,
my.
like how dynamic is that
Oh,
dynamic, and how dynamic is that, and how does it adjust itself based on the program changes?
exactly. So yeah, you're right. You were referring to that, and lenders will sometimes open the valves, as everyone calls it in our industry, at the end of the month or just before the end of their fiscal, where they want more deals, right? So not only is there a fluctuation into what they select or wish to get, but also their programs change every month. So of course, Lucy has all the lenders inside the platform. We have connections with all the lenders where their programs are inside and read by Lucy, understood by Lucy, and then the answers will be spit out. Now, on top of that, Lucy will learn on every decision that's made, and that is actually what we're working on right now to return advice onto, okay, there's been a file lately that has been approved where the lender program was not clear on if the client would be approved or not, so the next similar case should actually be approved as well. And Lucy learns if it's not the case, then Lucy reverts to what it was before. So yeah, it's dynamic, it has to be. We're working on that. Had we have had work, we've been working on that for several years and still continue at it. So yeah, it's dynamic.
I'm actually really surprised because in the past, and I wouldn't say that I've been in the car business too long. It's only like 13, 14 years, and not a lot. I'm still learning a lot of things, but I'm very tech guy. I like technology, and based on these 14 years that I've been in the business in retail and consulting and whatever you name it, I would never seen or heard anything like this before. That it does it. Like, am I wrong? Like, because you're a lot more experienced than I. Have you ever seen anything similar to that? Even like the same kind of idea in Canada, US? Like, is that the only unique thing, Lucy? You would say?
Well, it's interesting you say that because I've been visiting dealers across the country for the past year, and I've been talking to dealer groups that have worked on their own platforms. The idea came, actually, the idea rose in a lot of people's mind, right? It's not an idea that is unique to us in terms of thinking about a solution like this. Now, building the solution is something that's unique.
Yeah.
There's, to my knowledge, there's maybe one or two similar companies that have started the process at pre-qualifying consumers based on score or light data, right? But looking at the full credit bureau and also bank statements and also all of the additional questions that Lucy will ask to pre-qualify a consumer is unique. It is unique in North America, and it's a spot that's not easy to take because even though that the technology is new, some dealers don't understand it well initially. I'd say that the vast majority of dealers understand right away, but for some dealers that think that, as I said earlier on, the misconception on non-prime sometimes can be hard to crack. Now, some stores have business managers that are experienced and will be threatened about this technology that's brought to them. So there is all of that into the mix. But to answer your question, um, we're somewhat unique. There's nothing else like that, and dealers actually, over 85% of dealers, when they see the value in Lucy, they just sign up for it because there's so much in there, and there's so much time saving in there that and higher profitability on F&I that they get it right away.
It's a really interesting topic, and I'm really happy that we connected and you talk
Absolutely.
about this. And I always make sure that people I bring into the show are always going to add value to the listeners and viewers. And I never try to make it like an advertising or anything like that.
Mm.
And that's my intention. But anything new like that, people should be aware that this is available and this is what happens.
It's brand
So
new. You're right,
yeah, it's
John.
brand new, right? Like it's I would call it's like kind of like a digital revolution kind of stuff that you would say you're starting something like that, right? I mean, this is not to replace the F&I manager,
No,
but it's like an F&I manager assistant type of thing, like
correct.
the V Auto, right? I don't know if you're familiar with V
Yep,
Auto too,
very
but
much
V
so. Yep.
Auto is not there to replace the used car manager. It's just going to make the used car manager's life easy. While Lucy is the same thing, your digital assistant, rather than you waste 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes, well, just plug it in, get what you need, and bang, done deal. You get the
It's a
maximized,
it, yeah,
right?
it's a great comparison, John, and I like to say that we're the kind of the V Auto of F&I or business managers, where Lucy, we actually call our system a virtual assistant, right?
Yeah.
Because Lucy can help you, remind you of things, look at customers' past history, suggest lenders, calculate debt ratios, find your best prime F&I programs, and also find inventory according to a payment call. So there's even a tie-in with companies like Black Book or vAuto or
So what do you mean? So what do you mean? Like, so I qualify for $450 a month. You find me a car for $450 a month across the board. Is that what you mean?
yeah, it's a bit more complicated than that, because when lenders approve a consumer on a payment call, they'll return, of course, the term, the interest rate, and the
Monthly,
car
year, and all
payment.
that
And the car payment.
stuff.
That's somewhat easy to find inventory because you can calculate what the amount turns out to be and just find a car that fits that. But there's a but there. Um, Non-prime lenders will also return a maximum LTV amount according to whichever tool they use, such as Black Book, on the vehicle, right? So maximum LTV on the vehicle, but also on the transaction. So you get two data sets. You get, let's say, 140% on the Black Book value, and also that's for the car, and 180% on the total transaction. So
Okay.
then, what someone needs to do at this point, a used car, new car manager needs to find what values, what those values are, and try to find the maximum vehicle or the best vehicle that fits that payment according to Black Book values. Now, that process starts to take more time because think about it. If you have 140 cars in inventory or less these days, right? If you have 50 cars, if you're lucky, uh, then you need to find which of those cars fit the payment call. And if there's negative equities in there, it makes it even more complicated to find the right inventory piece. Now, Lucy does that in 30 seconds, just to match the inventory based on the
Wow.
lender payment call. And
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
How accurate is it? Does it even make
30 seconds,
mistake?
sorry, 30 milliseconds. So half a second. I
Half a
said 30
second.
seconds. Yeah, half a second.
And how accurate is it? Is it pretty accurate?
Yeah, it's exactly on the T, because the data that's inside the data that Lucy reads in order to create that is validated every day. So Black Book values are every day. Cost comes from DMS, right? So the way Lucy works, by the way, is that Lucy fetches data from all the DMSs. So we've done, everyone, they're plugged. So Lucy plugs into those DMSs, get the inventory inside the platform with the cost. So therefore, we have cost, we have Black Book, we have selling price, we have the lender call. So all of that together allows us to do that calculation. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Like this kind of integration, DMS, everything. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Well, so here's the biggest question. And I want to jump into a couple other little things too before we wrap
Sure.
it up. But
Yeah.
uh Seems like a very interesting thing, and I don't think this will fit into my whole show to go over that. If people curious about this, and I like myself, they want to learn more and like want to see it in action. What do they need to do? How they can find more about it?
They simply can reach out either to me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, as you just referred to earlier on. But also, they can go visit our website, which is www.decisioning.it.
Okay.
So they can inquiry about the platform there, get a demo made. So we do a lot of demos these days to dealers that want to see, how this Lucy platform works and what it does. So we'll demo the platform. They can also call us at 1-844-838-3563.
Okay. So
So
that's the line.
that's the plug right
And
there.
what's the turnaround time to demo to start and all that stuff? Like 10
Okay.
days, 15 days? How long does it take?
Well, demo is simple, right? That can be done anytime. The integration is roughly 2 weeks. It really depends on the dealership environment because, as I said earlier on, we plug into the dealership's DMS, but we also plug in with the dealership's CRM.
Which
So
CRMs though? Every CRM? Every
every CRM,
DMS?
yeah, every CRM. So the way it works is that salespeople will log in a client. They can click on push, or Lucy can get that data already pushed automatically to Lucy. So therefore, the client will be activated in Lucy with all the like, information that the salesperson has entered, or from the DMS. So the idea here is to prevent business managers to not have them re-enter the client information so many times, because that's unfortunately the reality with business managers today, is that they have to copy and paste and re-input data in all sorts of different platforms, right? So what we've done here is that we prevent that by searching the data, searching the client information into DMSs and CRMs, and depending on the CRM type or DMS type or who they are, it can be longer or shorter. So roughly an average would be 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, that's I think it's a lot of information there, and it's first time I'm hearing something like this, and I very curious to learn more about it. So maybe I'll book myself a demo and find out about it. But before wrap it up, I see on LinkedIn that you wanted to hire people from Ukraine who are computer programmers. Could be probably going to utilize them in your Lucy platform or other software companies you own. Uh, and I see the responses, and I think the video become viral. I see a lot of positive comments, likes. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like,
Yeah,
how
there's
is
been
that going on and all that stuff?
yeah, so I didn't expect it to become what it became, but it became extremely viral. And I was even told by someone in Ukraine that my video was like a virus because everyone saw it and talked about it. Now it really jumped up in the number of views and replies. Some are great, some are not as great. As it is on social media, it's normal. Now my gesture here, my idea was to help Ukrainians that have fled out of the country before the Ukrainian military law obliged men to stay inside the country to fight on Russians. But to the ones that have fled, or women that have fled as well, I'm interested to hire developers. Now, the developer market, so that it is hard in Canada. It's hard to find talent. I mean, everyone's booked. It will be extremely rare if you find someone that's just waiting on to be offered a job. Everyone's working, so the employment is extremely high. To find developers is hard. So I thought to myself, why not hire Ukrainians that have fled the country that are great developers? There's a lot of great developers in Ukraine, and just offer them and their family to immigrate to Canada, and we'll supply them with a job, which is very important for them, of course, when they immigrate. So I just posted a video there on LinkedIn saying, hey, we're open to hire Ukrainians, and it became viral. And obviously, the good side of that is that we'll be able to help more than one, maybe two, maybe three developers that will get to immigrate to Canada. We're talking to them right now. the downfall of that, unfortunately, on my side, it makes me feel bad, is that we got 800 resumes.
Wow.
So I can only hire three. I wish I
Yeah.
could hire everyone. So I'm about to post something new now, and even on just Tribune, I could say everyone who wants to hire developers, contact me. I'll share a list of hundreds of resumes of people that are looking for a job, ready to immigrate to Canada. And by the way, Canada now has opened its doors to immigrants from Ukraine, so it's easy to get them to come here and work for us, right? So just contact me if you're looking for a developer, and if you're open to help someone from Ukraine, I have resumes that I can share.
That's amazing. I mean, amazing. I mean, your humanitarian efforts are amazing. What you're doing for car business is amazing. I'm really proud, a fellow Canadian, pushing something like this, because as Canada, we're the ones inventor of the phones, the insulin. We have a lot of new inventions, and we're the land of inventions. And
Mm.
when I see some nice invention like this, the idea could help everybody. uh, I'm really proud of it. It's amazing. Hopefully, this will take off, and you'll pull up that Canadian flag there, and everybody in North America uses your tool, and we'll be all proud of it. And
Yep. Yep.
great conversation. Before I wrap it up,
Thank you for
thank
that.
you for your time. By the way, normally it takes about 30-35 minutes, but I went over it. I know you're a busy guy too.
Sure.
Anything you want to add before I finish it up? Anything you want to say?
Not really. I mean, I just want to thank you for that, and just say that we just one point, we referred to the 2 weeks delay for Lucy implementation. It is 2 weeks, but we have a waiting list. So that's the other point, is that we're still a small company. We've doubled every year. Now we're larger, but still we have lots of demand for the product. So there's delays on to getting on a waiting list to get it in your store. But once it's your turn, it's 2 weeks. So it can take more than 2 weeks from the decision of adding Lucy to your technology stack in the dealership to getting it activated. So there's a delay there of roughly a month and a half. But that
Wow.
being said, John, I absolutely wanted to thank you. I think that as my perspective of being Canadian, Quebecer as well, I do want this product to be in every dealer in Canada, because I think Lucy makes a difference. We even have considered going to the US and pushing that forward in time, but it looks like it's going to be shorter than later. So I'm really happy to be where I am. I hope that we'll be able to make a difference for Ukrainians that will work for us, and build our technology to become even better for North American dealers. So that's where I stand today, and I just want to thank you for this Tribune, so I can talk about my little 6-year-old daughter called Lucy.
It's been absolute pleasure. And thank you again. And thank you for doing what you're doing. We'll keep in touch. And for
Absolutely.
viewers and listeners, if you missed the whole conversation, you can listen to this or watch this at your favorite place. We are pretty much everywhere. You can listen to this on your car, or you can watch this on YouTube later on. And if you have more questions about Lucy, please reach out Andre, and he's more than happy to talk to you. Thank you very much, and it's been an absolute pleasure. Have a good one.
You too. All right. Thanks,
Bye.
John.
Bye.
Talk soon.